Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about the latest studio album from Rotting Christ entitled Pro Chisto. Or at least I think that's what the album's called. At least I think that's how that title is pronounced. I'm not entirely sure. I kind of tried to find a correct pronunciation on the internet specifically for that second word. Kind of came up dry. Did my best. Cut me some slack. Don't crucify me, please and thank you. I'm a dumb white Canadian. Whatever. Alright. Cool. The supposedly titled, based on what research I did, Pro Chisto, is the 14th full-length studio album from this Greek black metal crew, Rotting Christ, pioneers, icons, poster boys for Greek black metal and for the Greek metal scene as a whole. I have to concede I've never paid a ton of attention to these guys. This is a band that's more up Anna's particular wheelhouse than it is mine, but I have heard a few albums here and there over the years, some of which I've liked, some of which I thought were just kind of okay. I don't really have any strong feelings for this band one way or the other. As a result, this album was dangerously close to getting thrown into the albums I missed bin. But Pro Chisto was ultimately spared from this fate for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it is being used to commemorate the band's 35th anniversary as a band. That's kind of crazy. I actually had no idea they had been around that long. Wow, holy shit, good for them, unironically. And secondly, and more importantly, because in reading about what this album was about, in reading about the concepts, the stories it was telling, the lyrics that were on display, in reading about what sounds and influences and styles were being brought into the album and what had informed the album musically, that kind of made me think, all right, this might be pretty cool. This might be kind of freaky and funky for Rotting Christ, you know? As the band writes in a press release, Pro Chisto, before Christ in Greek, serves as a fervent tribute to the last pagan kings who resisted the onslaught of Christianity, guarding their ancient values and knowledge. In this thematic odyssey, Rotting Christ delves into the legacies of historical figures such as Flavius Claudius Julianus and Nordic mythological kings, embodying the might of pagan wisdom in the face of Christian adversity. On top of all of that, Rotting Christ are playing around with very dark, epic, melodic songcraft and songwriting, bringing in neoclassical and orchestral and gothic elements into the sound, and also, surprisingly, a decent range of vocal tricks and tactics and techniques, you know? You have your standard black metal screeches and howls and gutturals and such, but you also have chanting vocals and more operatic vocals, heavenly vocals that reek of this ritualistic, religious energy and spirit. The album feels big, important, cinematic, larger than life. And when this album succeeds, it's because of that. It's because of the production value. It's because of the concept. It's because of all these other elements that Rotting Christ are bringing into the sound. My problem, though, is that ultimately this is all icing, and the cake itself, though competently constructed, just doesn't have all that much flavor to it. If you were to strip this album completely of its story and spectacle and spark and sizzle, what you'd be left with is a pretty underwhelming, slow, sluggish, mid-pace kind of black metal record. Not terrible per se, not even really mediocre, just kind of average, you know? This album, though admittedly still an improvement on Ritual and the Heretics, in my opinion, because fun fact, I was not a huge fan of those records, still kind of sort of suffers from the same problem as those albums. I feel like we're prioritizing style over substance. Lucky for Rotting Christ, though, that style does a great deal of good for them. For instance, the double whammy of title track and intro number Pro Chisto and The Apostate, genuinely really cool, really badass, adventurous, full of tragedy and metal fury. It's big and bold and dynamic with organic, whirring, evocative strings. Towering walls of epic, heavenly, choral and chanting vocals with this kind of gruff, Viking-esque baritone cutting through it all and running into the fray. Though we're digging into some historical and religious tragedy and drama, this is just inherently kind of exciting. It really does feel like I'm about to go off on an adventure. And this momentum carries through successfully in tracks such as Like Father Like Son and The Sixth Day. both of which rely on more simplistic, dare I say, stripped-down songwriting and songcraft with some more simplistic, muscular chugs and some more simplistic, classic, soaring melodies kind of working in unison. Simplicity here is used to great effect. Simplicity here is used to Riding Christ's advantage. They're able to create songs that feel big and important and larger than life and really dramatic without having to go into really complex, confusing, convoluted, artsy-fartsy territory. That, admittedly, is pretty impressive. Bravo, Riding Christ, unironically. No jokes, no hyperbole. Good job. But from here on, I begin to notice a bit of a trend. I begin to notice a bit of a pattern, if you will, and things begin to slide ever so gently downhill for me. It's not so much that the songs become really bad, it's more so that I realize they're all kind of the same at the very core, at the very skeleton, you know? I realized, as I said before, that once you strip away the style and the story and the spectacle, what you're left with is pretty slow, sluggish, mid-pace black metal with not much to really say or do. Like, sure, there's still plenty of beautiful vocal and symphonic stuff in tracks like Pretty World, Pretty Dies and Pix Lax Dax, but it's just not enough when the song at its core is lacking in tempo changes and engaging riffage and more original and unique songwriting. Also, to be honest, even these melodic and symphonic elements lose a little bit of their luster as time goes on. Even this too starts to feel kind of repetitive. On my first listen, somewhere in between like the halfway point and the 2/3 point of this record, I found that I just kind of tuned out and wasn't really paying much attention anymore. It became background noise. And on my second listen, I found that I was skipping certain sections of certain songs just to get to some of the more memorable and dynamic parts. I will say that the album does end on a pretty strong note, with Yggdrasil throwing in some much-needed, groovy, galloping riffs and some more extreme bursts, whereas the actual closing number, Ceruis, comes close to just embracing full-on orchestral symphonic black metal bombast, especially with those horns and those pounding drums. And I think with this in mind, a good shuffle of the track list would do this album a world of wonder. I mean, the best stuff is at the very beginning and at the very end. A part of me wants to give this album a 2.5 out of 5 because that middle section was kind of a drag for me, you know? The songwriting and the songcraft, you know, it's desperately in need of some more dynamic, engaging, and brutal riffage and some more tempo changes and just, you know, a little bit more than just strings and vocals piled on top, you know? But a part of me wants to give this a 3 out of 5 because the vocals and the strings and stuff was genuinely really well handled. Like, the production value of this record, the scope, the size, and the feel of it, it's admittedly quite impressive. In its best moments, I really do feel like I'm on this big adventure. Fuck it, I don't know. 3 out of 5, why not? I'll be nice. I'm a nice guy. I think, warts and all, this album ultimately succeeds at what it wants to be. I think that people who love big melodies and, like, beautiful, majestic black metal ripe with adventure and drama, I think those people are gonna fucking love this album, and more power to them. As far as newcomers are concerned, I would say check out some of the singles and then maybe see how you feel. I wish the cake itself was tastier, more unique, more creative, but hey, credit where it's due. That icing kind of bomb. That icing kind of works. It kind of saves the day, not gonna lie. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown e-fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.